It's quite difficult to sort of sum up the right way to describe how I'm feeling right now. So I think the best thing to do is to start off with the main headlines, which is firstly, Manchester United have qualified for the Champions League for next season. An absolutely incredible achievement for Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff, given everyone's sort of expectations for the club this season. Secondly, we have gone up to third in the Premier League table, jumping above Newcastle, which is a good look for us. We need to be making sure that we round that off with victory against Fulham on Sunday to finish the season in third place. And finally, we have won 4-1 against what is still considered to be one of the best teams in the country, albeit they are having the absolute worst season really imaginable for Chelsea Football Club right now. But look, all things considered, I'm still not overly pleased with the performance. I think second half from kick off at the start of the second half until about the 80th minute, I thought we were absolutely phenomenal. One of the best second half performances we've put in this season. But in that first half, I was really, really concerned. And we were very, very lucky to be winning, let alone 2-0 up at half time. And I'll touch on that in a moment. And just before we get into the all-round analysis, I just want to quickly say, if there are any Chelsea fans watching, I was really impressed with Lewis Hall tonight. He looks like a fantastic young player, only 18 years old. Probably Chelsea's best player on the pitch tonight, with the possible exception of João Felix's second half cameo. But really impressed with him. I hope he gets some more game time, whoever takes over at Chelsea next season. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of him at the Under-21 Championships with England over the next couple of months. And like I said in the predictions video yesterday, we are going to be covering the Under-21s on this channel. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of Lewis Hall in the coming months. Now, let's talk about the actual overall performance from Manchester United. And like I say, I was really, really concerned with that first half. And we have to talk about the FA Cup final now, because that is now our only priority. Sunday is just a game which stopgaps until Wembley now. And let me say this right now. If we play how we played in that first half against Manchester City, we're going to get obliterated. There is no excuses for the lapses in concentration and the style of play that we showed in that first half. The amount of good, clear-cut chances that Chelsea had in that first half. Like I say, if we're playing against Manchester City, they're putting those chances away. And not only that, they're a better team than Chelsea, and they'll create more of those opportunities if we play the way that we did. And I think what we tried in that first half was sort of an experiment for what we could potentially try at Wembley, and that is to just try and hit a full high press, something that we've not seen a lot of this season, something that I know Erik ten Hag wants to bring into the football club, but it just didn't work in that first half. It really didn't. We were pushing at every opportunity, right from the word go. Martial was on Kepa, Bruno was on the centre-backs, Antony was on Hall, Sancho was on Azpilicueta, and even Casemiro and Eriksen were trying to push up. And what was happening was, if they broke out of the press, which they did on a number of occasions, and again, City will do on even more occasions, we didn't have the legs to get back. And Christian Eriksen was the main culprit for this. Now, you all know that I absolutely adore Christian Eriksen, but at his age, with his sort of level of fitness, he's not going to be able to run up and down for 90 minutes. He sort of taken off in the second half to put Fred on, and that's because he was tired. Now, he wasn't running around anywhere near as much as you would expect a player to play if they're going to be doing high pressing and running backwards. So that's something that definitely needs addressing. It's either a style of play issue that we need to adapt, or we need a player that can start. We've been looking at Declan Rice, Mason Mount, a lot of talk about those two players today. If that's the sort of profile of player that we need to go in there, then I'm fine with that, because we need more legs in the midfield, because that's where the chances were coming from. I can't put any blame on Casemiro or any of the defence. I know there was one chance that came from a Lindelof slip, but that can happen in a football match. Players slip all the time. But real concern in that first half, because Chelsea had some real clear-cut opportunities. Mudryk had to score. Gallagher, if he'd have put in a little bit more effort, should have got on the end of Havertz's pass, and Havertz himself somehow manages to head it 10 yards wide from a position where all he's got to do is head it straight and he'll get it on target. So really concerning in the first half in terms of our defensive style of play. Offensively, it was a little bit better, I have to be said. The first goal, Casemiro once again my player of the match again, and obviously, as you all know, my player of the season for Manchester United. Fabulous ball in from Eriksen. We know that's what he is capable of. That's why he does play. His ball playing is second to none in the Manchester United team. A fabulous ball in and another incredible header from Casemiro for him to score in back-to-back games. From that point on, like I say, on the ball, we were okay, but we weren't brilliant. We were being very, very sloppy. All players culpable. Anthony at times was giving it away a lot. I'm going to say this right now. I think we played a lot better after Anthony went off, and I can touch on that a little bit more in a moment, but at the moment we're just talking about the sloppy play. Bruno was giving the ball away too much. Too many flicks from several players. Bruno was going for back heels. Anthony was going for back heels. Sancho, we know that's a part of his game. Even Wan-Bissaka was pulling out back heels. Rashford, when he came on. It's just not necessary. This isn't Yoga Benito. We're not 2002 Brazil. We can't just ping the ball, do some back heels and rip teams to bits. We're not at that level yet. We know it's not Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Kaká. We're not there. This team has the potential to, I'd say, reach about 75% of that team, but we're nowhere near that right now. So the flicks and the tricks, they need to stop, especially when we've only got a 1-0 lead. And that was really the main issue for us giving away the ball in the first half. And like I say, from there, Chelsea created their chances. And then as half-time approached, a moment of absolute severe brilliance from Casemiro. A no-look pass, chip over two Chelsea players as Sancho makes the run behind. And his awareness and his vision, we know this is what Jadon Sancho is capable of. He squares it across for Martial to tap it in. And at this point, I'll now mention Anthony and Sancho because there's been a lot of criticism around Jadon Sancho over the last couple of weeks and last month or so, but I've defended him every occasion because when I see him play, I understand the value of what he brings to the team. And I've said that he needs to be playing more centrally, but for me, his best performance of the last few months came in this game because he was back in his position that he was playing for Borussia Dortmund, which was on the right-hand side. Now, as I've just said, I thought Lewis Hall had a very good performance. And the reason he had to play very, very well was because of how well Jadon Sancho was playing. But what Sancho was doing, what he's much more comfortable doing is coming in off that right-hand side and linking up the play. We know Jadon Sancho's not the fastest. He's not going to blitz past players down that right-hand side. But when he's on that right-hand side, he can jink inside and play passes. And when he was in that position, we've been so critical of Anthony over the last few weeks where all he does is come inside on that left foot and shoot. And he did it on 2 occasions again today. Granted, he got it right when he played it into Martial and Martial cocked it up. But all the other occasions, he just came in and shot. Whereas the moment Sancho was out there, more players were being brought into the game. He was linking up with Bruno. He was feeding balls into Martial. And then obviously the goal, as we've just spoke about, comes from that ball from Casemiro. The brilliant movement from Sancho. And I'm not being funny. How many players in world football would have A, played that pass and B, pulled it off successfully? I reckon there's only a handful of players that would have done that and pulled it off. And Jadon Sancho is one of those players. And this is exactly why, for me, at the start of next season, certainly for the remainder of this season, the 2 games we have left, Jadon Sancho needs to be starting on that right-hand side. That rounded off the first half. And like I say, second half performance, I have no real complaints until around the 80th minute after we went 4-0 up. We were really, really energetic. We were moving around the pitch, the passing, the link-up play, all fantastic. Malacia coming on for Shaw. It seems like Shaw may have picked up a slight back injury. I expect him to be available for the FA Cup final, but I'm not going to complain too much if he's not available. Malacia has made a good account of himself every time he's played, and there was no exception of that today. But like I say, we were ruthless in that second half. We were all over Chelsea, creating chances. I say ruthless. We scored 4 goals. It probably could have been 6 or 7 in that second half. Bruno hit the bar. Garnacho hit the bar. Good saves from Kepa, from the likes of McTominay and Rashford. A few last-ditch blocks from shots from Sancho and Casemiro. Really, really, really impressed with that second half. And we need to be taking that sort of momentum into the game against Fulham and then obviously the game against Manchester City. And there's been a lot of talk around what we should do already just in the last half hour as it became obvious that we had won the game and sealed Champions League football as to what we should do against Fulham. And in my opinion, we need to stick, or should I say, we need to play the starting lineup that will play against City against Fulham. I know there is slight injury risks that you can take if you're doing something like that, but for me, We've just come off the back of our biggest win for a very long while against a very good side. We're trying to build momentum to go into that Manchester City game. In my opinion, the worst thing you can do when you've just had a big win is rest all the players for the FA Cup final. We need to build off the back of that win. Play the lineup that's going to play against City. If that means Fred comes in for Eriksen, that means Fred comes in for Eriksen, because we know that Fred probably should play against Manchester City after the performance he put in on De Bruyne at Old Trafford. And as we've already mentioned about Eriksen's lack of legs in the midfield when Chelsea were counter-attacking, we know how bad that will be when Manchester City have the ball. So for me, you line up against Fulham at the weekend. This would just be my team. I would have De Gea in goal and the back line as is. Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Lindelof, Shaw or Malacia if Shaw is not available. I would have Casemiro and Fred. I would have Sancho on the right, Bruno in the middle, Garnacho on the left, and Rashford up front. And that is no disrespect to Martial. I thought Martial had an okay to good game today. Few loose touches. Again, I think that was just down to the pitch. I spoke about players slipping earlier, and I don't want to sound like that famous Arsenal fan TV clip of it's been raining and all that. But I think they overwatered the pitch before kickoff today. There were so many players slipping over in those opening few minutes. Not just Lindelof for the Chelsea chances. Gallagher slipped over a couple of times. I remember Hall slipping over, getting Antony away at one point in the first half. And I think that's where the loose touches were coming from. Martial's heavy touch, Mudrik's heavy touch. They couldn't really get a read on how the ball was going to bounce because it was just skidding off that surface too much. And I just think the pitch was a little bit overwatered, and that's why players were slipping over and players were having heavy touches. So, yeah, Martial for me, I don't think he's quite done enough to earn a starting spot against Fulham or against Manchester City. I understand why we play him up there, to feed in and all that lot, but I've got to look at what I've seen of Manchester City, and I just think that Garnacho offers a threat that Kyle Walker's not really faced. He's raw. I know he handled Vinicius Jr., and I'm not going to say Garnacho is going to put in a performance that outdo Kyle Walker when Vinicius Jr. can't, but I think you look at the performances that Kyle Walker put in against Vinicius Jr., and I just think Rashford is immediately nullified if he goes out there. So, for me, Garnacho should start against Fulham, Garnacho should start against Man City, with Rashford up front, Bruno and Sancho, and for me, that gives us our best chance of A, beating Fulham at the weekend, and B, standing any chance against Manchester City in the FA Cup final in 10 days' time. And that is going to be it for today. Let me know, as always, your thoughts in the comments. There's not really too much to talk about. Should mention, I thought the referee had a fantastic game. I don't say that very often on this channel, as you know, but I thought Stuart Atwell had a near-perfect game. He got all the penalty decisions correct. He handled the violent situations at times very well. He let the game flow and all that lot. So I'm hoping that... I've not seen who the FA Cup final ref is. I'm sure it's already out. But if it is going to be Stuart Atwell, I wouldn't be complaining too much. I thought he had a very good game as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments about A, Manchester United qualifying for the Champions League. B, the players we've been linked with over the last 24 hours. C, who else we should be looking to sign in the January transfer window. And as always, our chances are going in to that big game against Manchester City in a week's time. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow morning with my final Premier League game week predictions.